Hi, everyone. We're here at the Metals Investor Forum, Toronto edition, and we're with Shawn Khunkhun, who is president and CEO of Dolly Varden. Shawn, tell us about Dolly Varden. What sets Dolly apart from the rest?
Sure. Peter, thanks for having me on. I think our biggest differentiator is we have a project where we've got size, we've got grade, and we're in a safe jurisdiction.
All important factors, absolutely. These days, more than ever, we chatted about that before, jurisdiction. That is something that has morphed over the last several years, perhaps decade or so, and become increasingly important, whereas, decades ago, you could look at jurisdiction and just about go anywhere and not have to worry about certain issues. But that has changed, and that certainly is an increasingly important factor when you look at projects and opportunities. Tell us about the progress that you've made at Dolly over the last 6 months or so, or maybe 12 months,
Sure.
given what happens with temperature and so on.
Yeah. It's been a huge 12 months. We started last year with a transformational accretive acquisition. So we had our 4 silver deposits in the southern part of the property. We brought in Homestake Ridge, which tripled our mineral inventory, doubling the land package of the property, bringing a lot of exploration opportunities in between the trends. So we've now consolidated 15 kilometers. And I had certain expectations going into the season, but they were really exceeded. On the Dolly Varden silver side of the property, we had big Stepout success at Wolf. So Wolf is a deposit. It was a 5 million ounce historic deposit. We've stepped out, doubling the strike length. We're hitting it down plunge. We're hitting it off to the east. The last drill hole we put out was 15 meters of 1,500 grams of silver. And so that was the best hole ever drilled on the property. And then 1.4 kilometers, you've got the Kitsault vein, which is producing 50 meters of 400 grams of silver. So incredible silver numbers. This is all outside of the resource. And then up at Homestake, and again, this is Dolly Varden silver, we pulled the best gold hole in the Golden Triangle. And if you think about the Golden Triangle, you've got Brucejack and Eskay and Premier, but we drilled 45 grams of gold over 25 meters. And really, when you asked me, tell me about Dolly Varden, the first thing I thought about was, this is such a prospective area where these are where the giant high-grade deposits are found. And for so long, they were covered by ice, or there was a lack of infrastructure. And I think that we've identified so much, but there's so much to still discover. And the proof was the step-out drilling we hit. So it was a huge year. And I say that it really, truly went beyond any expectation.
So that really speaks to, these kinds of results speak to the scale and the potential scale of if you look at the project as a whole, all across from Homestake all the way to the original projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. That's important. That's what bigger players look for these days, right? Jurisdiction, scale, grade. Obviously, recovery is important too when you talk about metallurgy. Have you done any work in that area? How, if so, where do you stand?
Great question, because regardless of how well you can define an ore body, if the metallurgy doesn't check out, it's worthless.
Right.
And so we've got 2 things going for us at Dolly. Number one, this is a past producer, so we've got all the historic logs. There's 2 eras of production, one back in around 1920, and then all through the 1950s, the Torbrit mine produced. So we have all the production logs. But then in 2019, we did some modern metallurgical studies, and our silver recovery is around 88%. And then the property we acquired from Homestake, they had done similar tests in around 2019, 2020, gold recoveries being in the low 90 percentile, which again, for silver, 88% is really strong. And anytime you can get over 90% on the gold side, it's very good. So the next step is blending that together. And that's one of the unanswered questions we're going to seek to answer this year, is what happens when we blend that ore together.
I see. So in other words, blending the ore, that means when it goes through the mill and then eventually gets treated, what happens, in other words, to the recoveries potentially?
Because we're envisioning one hub, and multiple spokes.
Right.
And in order to realize that vision, we need to know that the metallurgy checks out between deposits. We know individually it does, but again, if we envision one circuit here, we want to make sure that that works.
Exactly. So we've talked about the last 12 months. What do the next 12 months look like?
Yeah, I've never in my 20-year career had a more clear plan of exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And so essentially, high level, we've got 7 deposits. Let's drill around those deposits, but let's also try to find something new. So it's 50% around known resources, 50% on the exploration side. Now that's the operational objectives. There's a lot of other corporate initiatives that we're working on, including attracting more institutional investors. We welcomed Fidelity as a 7.5% shareholder. So as the company grows, as our liquidity increases, we're attracting some of these larger institutions. So, there's, I think there's a lot of room. There's a shortage, and this, there's a shortage of quality silver companies. And so if you look at our size of endowment, and if you put Dolly Varden inside of a major, we actually materially impact both their future production, but also their reserves and resources.
So you mentioned exploration is going to be, there'll be perhaps step outs and expanding, but exploration as well is going to be a big part of this year's activity. Is that likely to take place between Homestake and the old or the original Dolly properties, that area that is basically, so to speak, virgin territory for now?
Yeah, there's an internal fight going on between the geos that are wanting to allocate a lot of meters. They have these targets that they built up in all these seasons, cumulative, including last year, and they want us to go out and they want us to drill a lot of these undrilled targets, including in that 5.5 kilometer gap. And then we've got, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make this a saleable company. And so we're trying to take some of the inferred resources, convert them. We're trying to take some of these new discoveries where at Wolf we had some 207 meter step outs. I'd like to infill those so we can put those into an inferred category. So we're at the point where in the next 30 days, we're going to finalize that 50,000 meter drill plan. And I think where we'll land is it'll be a thoughtful combination of converting ounces, bringing new ounces into the inferred category, and drill testing some of these never drilled targets.
Right. So it's a delicate balance, but obviously it seems like each of these areas are going to get their say and help to evolve the project, obviously. So anybody looking at this, I guess they're asking themselves, if they're interested in Dolly, what are the catalysts likely to be over the next 12 months?
Well, I think, what something investors should think about is, and I talked about this today in my presentation, we want to own these companies because we believe the metals are where we want to be, either to preserve wealth or we think the metals are going higher. And I think what Dolly's demonstrated is there is a correlation with the metal price, but because we've done a good job of building mineral inventory, I think what we're giving investors is leverage not only to rising prices, but even at a time where prices were flat, because we're making discoveries, we're doing accretive acquisitions. But I'm getting away from your original question. Hit me with that one more time.
Yeah. Basically, the next 12 months, the kinds of catalysts that I guess investors could look towards.
So I think the reason we've performed well is because we're stepping out and we're hitting. So we're going to launch into the field in May. We're going to have the biggest drill program in the company's history.
50,000 meters is a lot.
And it might be bigger.
Right.
It might be bigger. We've got treasury for bigger. And again, if we're successful, I think this is a time where we really go. So that's going to produce a lot of results. And there's 4 targets where, I haven't even talked much about this, but up at Homestake, there's a deposit called Homestake Silver. We had a 200 meter step out hit, kilo grades that we need to follow up on. So I'm smiling because there's a lot to do here. And there's just so many. One of the things I want to say is Wolf, sensitive to our time here, but Wolf is where we had a lot of success. There's other Wolf-like targets that we're going back to. This is a 100-year-old camp. And it's not just about new technology or new innovation. It's about looking at something that somebody said was closed off and looking at it with new eyes through a new lens. And again, even at Wolf, taking it deeper. So yeah, lots of drill results, lots of catalysts, and again, rebalancing of silver ETFs could benefit us. So lots on the go.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that great overview. I'm sure that viewers will enjoy that recap. Thanks so much, Shawn.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.